Welcome back to Building Character, where we figure out how to play as your favorite fictional characters in Dungeons & Dragons. Join the Patreon to support the channel and like and subscribe for strength that befits a crown next time you play. Maybe. Today we're building Godfrey, also known as Hoarah from Elden Ring. He's the second to last boss in the game, and he is not a god. He's also not a demigod, he's not an Empyrean, he's just a badass who hooked up with a god, befriended a lion, raised an army, and gets stronger when he rips his armor off like he's a god-dang anime protagonist. Nothing but respect for this king.
No thanks, Dastardly.
Oh, please. My friends call me
Hoarah.
Before we get started, hi, I'm making other Elden Ring videos on this channel. I just love the game a whole lot and wanted to make a bunch of characters and bosses from it in D&D without flooding the main channel, so here we are. I'm also remaking building character episodes in Elden Ring instead of D&D, putting a lot of work into those videos. I think they turned out really good. Please check them out. Thank you. Let's start off with our goals for this build. First, we need to swing an axe like a master, going faster and faster like a hacker and slasher. Next, we gotta rip the earth out of the ground and make shockwaves to blast across the arena. Finally, we need to power up by disrobing. Turns out all of that armor was just holding you back. For stats, we'll be using the standard pointer from the player's handbook. Roll for stats if you want, just keep your multi-classing minimums in mind. Strength will be number 1. Your strength was the first to befit a crown after all. Wisdom next. When you bailed on the lands between, you survived just fine in the Badlands. You even got a kitty. Follow that up with Constitution. Obviously, the chieftain has to be pretty tough. Dexterity after that. Even if you're massive, you're not sacrificing flexibility or mobility. Charisma is lower than I'd like. We just need other stuff more, so we'll bump it with some skills. We're dumping intelligence, though. Godfrey only knows religion and stuff because he's God's ex-husband. They get along great, though. She just wanted to spend some more time with herself. That means something different in Elden Ring. Godfrey is a human. Humans get feats. The Fighting Initiate feat gives you a fighting style like unarmed fighting. That lets you deal 1d6 damage with your unarmed attacks, or 1d8 with 2 free hands, and a d4 of extra damage to a creature you have grappled once per turn. It'll get us closer to ripping people in half. Bump your strength and dexterity with your 2 free points. Take persuasion for your skill of choice to raise an army, and the soldier background for athletics and intimidation proficiency. Nobody's gonna date your ex-wife unless they can kick your ass first. We'll kick things off as a barbarian, letting you pick 2 skills from the barbarian list like animal handling and survival, letting you thrive in the desert after the divorce. Getting a pet after a breakup is pretty normal. So is taking your pet off of your lap when it's serious time. That's how you enter a rage. Letting you add extra damage to strength-based attacks, you resist bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, and get advantage on strength checks and saves. That would include grapples, so phase 2 can have a real Zangief vibe. You also get unarmored defense, making your AC 10 plus your dexterity and constitution modifier when you're not wearing armor. You can't spell respect without peck. Second level barbarians get reckless attack, letting you make your attacks with advantage as long as you don't mind giving your enemies advantage on attacks against you. Poise boys for life. You also get danger sense, giving you advantage on dexterity saving throws against spells and traps you can see. It's kind of why I don't like playing a caster in Elden Ring. 90% of the time, the bosses just step out of the way. Third level barbarians can choose a primal path, and there's a new one in Unearthed Arcana that is perfect for this large lad. If your DM doesn't like Unearthed Arcana, that's fine, use Berserker. But Path of the Giant will let you unleash the Giant Havoc, letting you add your rage bonus to thrown weapon attacks with a crushing hurl to throw that axe forward. Not really, great axes don't have the thrown property. Yet. Giant stature boosts your reach by 5 feet and makes you large size, so getting away from you will be an absolute nightmare. You also get another skill from the barbarian list, like perception, I guess. We already have the skills I needed. 4th level barbarians get an ability score improvement. Obviously, we want to start with your strength. Godfrey is absolutely yoked up. 5th level barbarians get an extra attack, letting you make 2 attacks with your action instead of 1. Since a grapple is a type of attack, that means you could grapple and slam someone in the same round now. Kind of a good combo, especially considering you don't have many ranged options. Fast movement will help you close that gap, adding 10 feet to your movement speed while you're not wearing armor. Just jump, then somehow pause mid-air before dashing forward. It'll look really cool. 6th level giant barbarians get elemental cleaver, letting you pick a weapon to add a d6 of acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage to, and it gains a 20-foot thrown range or 60 feet maximum thrown range, which is thrown with disadvantage. Now you can yeet your axe like a champ, then dive in and catch it. It also deals 1d12 plus 1d6 damage now with each hit. That's bananas. 7th level barbarians get Feral Instinct and Feral Pounce, giving you advantage on initiative checks and letting you add half your movement speed with a bonus action you're using to activate your rage. Now you can barrel forward right after ripping that shirt off. 8th level barbarians get another ability score improvement, cap off your strength before we start multi-class. classing. We'll do that with Druid since they're good at getting earth-shaking spells. Mold Earth doesn't deal damage, but it lets you move a 5-foot cube of dirt around or change its color in some way. Thunderclap is a deadlier cantrip option, forcing a Constitution saving throw on creatures within 5 feet of you, dealing 2d6 thunder damage to those that fail, half as much to those that succeed. It can be really hard to avoid. Thunder Wave is a more direct version of that, forcing a Constitution saving throw on creatures in a 15-foot cube in front of you, dealing 2d8 thunder damage and pushing them back 10 feet if they fail, half damage and no pushing if they succeed. Earth Tremor shatters the earth in a 10-foot radius around you, dealing a d6 of bludgeoning damage to those that fail and tripping them while also turning the area into difficult terrain. Honestly, at this level, the damage falls off. I'd use these slots for jump and long strider, tripling your jump distance or giving you 10 feet of extra movement speed. This is how you make it impossible to get away from you in phase 2. Speaking of phase 2, level 2 of Druid. That lets you choose a circle like Circle of the Land, which gives you an extra cantrip. Now we don't really need one. You also get wild shapes at this level, which we also don't really need. You can use them for a wild companion instead, letting you cast Find Familiar without a spell slot so you can bring your cat to work. I do that every day. I work at home. Third level Druids can choose some more useful stuff for Godfrey, like the second level spell Spike Growth. That creates a 20-foot radius of spikes on the ground. It becomes difficult terrain, and creatures who move through the area take 2d4 piercing damage for every 5 feet of movement they move. It doesn't have to be voluntary movement, so you could hypothetically grapple a creature and drag them through the spikes. Your movement speed after Longstrider is 25 feet, so 10d4 piercing damage. Sure, you'll take that piercing damage too, but how rad would it be to stomp some spikes up, then grab someone next turn and cheese grate them across the ground? 4th level Druids get another ability score improvement, bump that Constitution for better AC and more HP. That way you don't have to worry as much if you grind someone onto the ground. 5th level Druids can learn 3rd level spells. Erupting Earth forces a dexterity saving throw on creatures in a 20-foot cube, dealing 3d12 bludgeoning damage to those that fail, half as much to those that succeed. The whole area gets turned into difficult terrain after that, so it can really slow down some Tarnished. That's kinda Godfrey's whole goal. To speed yourself up, Haste from the Grassland Land Druid list doubles your movement speed, adds 2 to your AC, and gives you an extra action to dash, disengage, hide, or make one more attack. It requires concentration, so you can't have it up while raging, but it makes for a solid backup buff when you run out of anger. One quick dip to fighter now for a fighting style. The Great Weapon Fighter fighting style lets you reroll 1s and 2s on damage die with weapons you're wielding two-handed. Since that extra thunder damage from Elemental Cleaver is damage from your Great Axe, that means you'll get to reroll that too. The more die, the better this is. You also get Second Wind, letting you heal 1d10 plus your fighter level as a bonus action once per short rest. I'll be honest, that's 1d10 plus 1. This is our only fighter level. Back at Barbarian, 9th level Barbarians get Brutal Critical, letting you add extra damage die to your critical hits. That's 3d12 with a Great Axe. I'd say Godfrey's axe is pretty great, even if it's not as good as Godric's, in my opinion. 10th level Giant Barbarians get Mighty Impel, letting you throw a creature 30 feet as a bonus action while you're raging. If they don't want to be thrown, they can make a strength saving throw. Otherwise, they're going up. That means you could bonus action throw someone 30 feet in the air, make them take 3d6 falling damage, grapple them, and still attack them in a single turn. It's just a sick-ass combo that should probably end with you tearing them in half with your bare hands when your DM asks, how would you like to do this? 11th level Barbarians get Relentless Rage, meaning the first time you die while raging, you can make a DC 10 Constitution saving throw to stay up at 1 HP instead. This DC increases by 5 every time you use it before you finish a short rest, so it's a good thing you're hanging out right by the Queen's bedchamber. 12th level Barbarians get our last ability score improvement, get your Constitution as high as possible to be the toughest king you can be. 13th level Barbarians get another Brutal Critical for a Great Axe that deals 4d12 on a critical hit. That's a big old slam jam. It's not complicated, it's just fun. Our capstone is the 14th level of Giant Barbarian, making you a Demiurgic Colossus. That increases your range by 10 feet while you're raging. You can become huge size, and you're adding 2d6 elemental damage instead of 1d6 for your attacks with the weapon of your choice. Unfortunately, it does have to be a weapon, can't be on unarmed attacks, even though that'd be very cool. Now that we've hit level 20, let's figure out how viable this build is. First, it's fun to slam, and good lord you can slam, throwing people, adding thunder damage to your hits, or grinding them into a paste on the ground. You're also dummy thick with well over 150 HP and ways to keep that damage off thanks to rage. Finally, you control position with grappling, terrain alteration, and a very large size that makes you hard to get away from. For weaknesses, your AC isn't great, 15 unarmored or 16 in medium armor, so you're gonna take some hits. You're also lacking intelligence, meaning solving puzzles could be tricky. Finally, Barbarians are mad, multi-ability dependent. They require strength, dexterity, and constitution motivation to work at their best. You lost an ability score improvement for multiclassing and also need wisdom for druid spells, so it just gets a little messy. But you know what else is messy? The skid mark of a tarnish you mashed into paste. Slam, jam, and stomp out the big kablam. Just pray that your wife doesn't want to have more intellectual conversations. Otherwise, she could ask for some more time with herself. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, subscribe for more. We're making a bunch of extra Elden Ring videos here. Some are Elden Ring characters in building character, and others are building character videos in Elden Ring. You're set either way.